a talking point I've seen a ton this week about it's time for McDermott to go. And I'm going to start right off the top by saying I don't see it as being very realistic, and particularly not 5 weeks into the season. This is a coach that's had a ton of success here. You look at an owner who's had a hell of a time finding head coaches that have worked out. And of all the coaching blunders that we've seen, the one this week is kind of a blip on my radar compared to the other ones. When you think about 13 seconds and whatever, Hail Murray, there's so many of these. The Denver game last year. I think that's my biggest case for maybe he should go, is that there are so many to point to. But also, like, if they haven't cost him his job yet, what makes you think that 5 weeks into the season that they're going to do it now? I just don't see it. And for this week in particular, the situation at the end of the game is a tough one for me, because I'm seeing such, blanket statements of what should have been done and what was done wrong. And I get it. Like, you're starting with the ball at your own 3-yard line. You got less than a minute left. You got no timeouts, and you throw it 3 times from your end zone. Not only are you throwing it, they're, pass play stretching the field. And would that sequence be different for me? Absolutely. Like, I'm running on first down there, see if I get anything out of it. If I do, Houston's now used one of their timeouts. Second down, maybe we hit a play action. Depending on the success there, maybe you completed it, but it's not a first down, incomplete pass, whatever. Then I'm running on third down. Use some clock. We've used some of their timeouts. And, from that point, kind of playing for overtime. But what I struggle with in this situation of, how wrong this sequence is, how inexcusable this sequence is kind of playing it with the benefit of playing the results, right? And how many times have we been in a tight situation and we go conservative and we run the ball and we try to take it to overtime, and the other team scores on the first possession of overtime and you lost the game. And now it's, how could we possibly, play for overtime when we have Josh Allen? You got to put the ball in his hands. And I do think the situation here matters of how backed up you are in your own end zone, and these plays being long developing plays. But the play call is what it is, and it's not like they were running 4 verticals and everybody's going down the field. At a certain point, it does have to be on Josh Allen to understand, like, the situation of, hey, at the very least, let's get a first down. Let's see what happens. If we get a first down, we can leave them with no time on the clock and go from there. These down the field options, we're never in the headset. We won't ultimately know, if Joe Brady, if Sean McDermott is telling Allen, like, hey, let's make sure we make the smart choice with the ball here. Let's just try to get completions, get them to use their timeout, try to get a first down. So this one, at the end of the day, like, yes, everything comes back to the head coach. It all falls on his shoulders of what happens with this team. But to be 5 weeks into the season and we're already, firing up the fire Sean McDermott train, I just can't get there. And that's with the caveat of, like, assuming you're just going to get somebody better. And whenever this conversation comes up, and I have had my moments where I wanted McDermott to go, but the first place I have to go to with this is, okay, you want McDermott gone, who are you replacing him with? And I saw this week, what if Dayball gets fired? Would you bring him in as a head coach and fire McDermott? Are you calling Bill Belichick? No, uh, Bill Belichick accomplished very little in the league before Tom Brady and very little in the league after Tom Brady, to the point where he gets fired from New England and he's doing broadcasts right now. Like he didn't get all kinds of offers just because he was available last season. And now you're going to be another year removed from that, 6 months, whatever. I think both situations between the coach and the wide receiver room, I think there's spots that it's worth keeping an eye on right now and seeing how it progresses. One of the biggest things that I see for this wide receiver room right now, my argument against making a move is you kind of already have that move on your roster, and it's Curtis Samuel, and banking on Keon Coleman continuing to develop and getting Shakir back healthy. Now, will I make an argument for rounding out some depth? Absolutely. Can I make the argument that you could add a number one and bump all these guys down a spot? Absolutely. But I think Samuel and he and Allen just haven't been quite on the same page yet. Joe Brady hasn't quite figured out how he wants to use Curtis Samuel yet. And again, there's a ton of newness in this offense, and we're only 5 weeks in. The first 3 weeks we were all riding a high, like, holy shit, this strategy is working. Bills are geniuses, blah, blah, blah. And then we have just 2 brutal weeks, and the opponent here does matter to me. Baltimore, one of the better teams in the league. They're going through, some turnover themselves. But if I asked you before the season started, you're going to have Baltimore picked as a playoff team. If I asked you before the season started, you're going to have Houston picked as a playoff team. So, granted, if you're going to be a playoff team, if you're going to make some noise, you do have to beat those teams. Don't get me wrong. But it's early in the season. Some of these lulls with the Bills over the years where they're kind of figuring things out. And then last year, we were sitting like 6-6, looking at, are we even going to make the playoffs this year? And, they rattle off they stack wins to end the season, and that's how it ends up.